Good morning. So I'm going to start. So we discussed today about the statistical fundamentals which are used in the SPC, statistical process control. So when I say statistical fundamentals, first of all we should know what is statistics. We should know what is statistics. So statistics is defined as the science which deals with a collection of a quantitative data, collection of quantitative data, tabulation of quantitative data, analysis of quantitative data, interpretation of quantitative data, and presentation of that data. So here the collection of data. So the data which you are going to collect should be in the form of, say for example, we have discussed the different quality control tools. So here check sheet can be used to collect the data. So as we discussed in the previous class, that the example of defects data from the tank. So that defect data is collected in the form of check sheet. Defect data is collected in the form of check sheet. So check sheet can be used here. Check sheet can be used here. Then after collecting the data, to be tabulated. So tabulated in the form of, say for example, you may use the computer or Excel sheets or anything that can be tabulated. So once you tabulate the data, so you need to analyze the data. So whatever the data collected and tabulated, that should be analyzed. And then after analysis, then you'll be knowing that what kind of data, what kind of frequency, and what kind of defects are going to be occurring more, and all those. Based on that we can infer the data. That is what you can call as interpretation of data. And after interpreting the data, then you can present this data, that is in the form of, say, this is the defect 1 is occurring x number of times, and defect 2 is occurring y number of times. So that can be presented. So generally all the statistics is nothing but which deals with the collection of data, and the data to be tabulated, and then the data to be analyzed, and then interpreted the results, then it will be presented. So there are two principal analytical tools, analytical methods which are describing the collection of data. So there are two principal analytical methods of describing a collection of data. So the data which you have collected, it can be described by using these methods. What are those methods? There are two methods which are we can call it as measures of central tendency, and measures of dispersion. So these are the two methods which we use for describing the data, collection of data. Means how the data is varying, how it is spread, the data is spread, how it was. So the measures of central tendency and measures of dispersion both will give the analytical method to describe the data. So we'll discuss one by one. What is the measures of central tendency? So measures of central tendency, it is nothing but it is a distribution of and it's a kind of distribution which is a numerical value, and that describes the central position of the data, how the data is looks like. So if you collected the data and you have plotted in a form of, say for example, graph, then all the data, if it falls in the central position, then it is a kind of, I mean, that will be represented with the numerical value. And how the data tend to build up in the center. So the data in the center, how the data is, if you plot the points, how it is building up with the in the center of the value of the data collected. So a measure of central tendency of a distribution, is a numerical value that describes the central position of the data, or how the data tend to be build up in the center. See here, there are three measures in common. So the measures of central tendency can be measured in three ways. One is the average, and the second one is the median, the third one is the mode. First one is average, median, mode. All these three are called as measure of central tendency. Means whatever the data you collected, then you are going to find out the how the data is plotted with respect to the center line, with respect to the center line, whether the data is falling exactly at the average line or the median line or mode line. So measure of central tendency. Now we'll discuss one by one. The average. Average, I think you people will know it. Average is nothing but it is defined as the sum of observations divided by the number of observations. Sum of observations to the number of observations will give the average. Suppose that x1, x2, and so on, xn are the observations in a sample. The most important measure of central tendency in the sample is the sample average. So how it will be calculated? If there are these are the number of observations, there are n observations we have. One is x1, x2, and so on. Xn observations are collected in the form of data. If these observations we have, then if you plot it in the particular graph, how it is going to be represent the central tendency. Central tendency means tendency towards being at the center line, being at the center line. So what is the center line of this data? What is the center line of this data? This data of center line can be calculated by using the average, by using the average. So average of these values, average of these values to be calculated. How it will be calculated? And it is denoted with x bar. Above that x, you need to draw a small line which is called as bar. So it is denoted as mu also. It can be denoted as mu also, and x bar equal to x1 plus x2 and so on xn divided by n. So this is the sum of the observations. This is called sum of the observations divided by number of observations. So this will give the center line of the collected data. Means there are n observations which you have collected. There are n observations which you have collected. Among all the n values, then you have found out the average of all those values. That is will give the center line. And among these n observations, how many observations will fall? The tendency to fall between within the center line. I mean on the center line. That is what you can call as central tendency. Okay. So now the second one which we are discussing about the median. So median and mean average or average median mode, all three are called as measure of central tendency. So this median is also measure the central value. That is, it is defined as the value that divides a series of ordered observations. It is defined as the value that divides a series of ordered. This ordered is very important here. You need to know what is ordered. Ordered means in the sense the observations which you have collected, should be represented in the ascending order or descending order. So it is defined as that value that divides a series of ordered observations. Means if you collect the observation data, you need to put in the ascending order or descending order. Then if the value which divides this number of observations into two parts, that is, one is exactly above, I mean the number of observations exactly above this number is equal to the exactly below the number of below of this particular number, so that the number of items above it is equal to the number of below it. Means number of items above this number equal to the number of items below this number. So that is what you can call as median. So median divides the data into two equal parts. Median divides the data into two equal parts. That is, above this median value and below this median value, if you count the number of observations, it will be same. So here in the calculation of the median, there are two situations are possible. One is when the number of observations are odd. Means, say for example, I have 7 observations. Say 5, 10, 15, 30, 45, 60. Like that, we have 7 observations. When the number of observations are odd, the median is the midpoint of the values, provided the data is ordered. So if the 7 is the odd number, so the midpoint in the sense it is going to be a fourth term. It is going to be fourth term, which is going to be the mid value. That is 1, 2, 3. Then fourth term 5, 6, 7. So if fourth term above the fourth term we have 3 observations. After the fourth term we have 3 observations. So these observations should be kept in a order. Order in the sense it may be a ascending order or it may be a descending order. So the order to be maintained, and you need to find out if the number of observations are odd or even. If the number of observations are odd, then we can say that the median is nothing but the midpoint of the observations. Means if there are 7, the midpoint will become 4th. If it is 11, midpoint is 6. If it is 15, the midpoint is 8. So 8th number means n plus 1 by 2 the term, n plus 1 by 2 the term is going to be the median value. That is, if it is 15, 15 plus 1 by 2, 16 by 2. So 8th term is going to be midpoint of that value. So this is how the median is calculated in the measures of central tendency. Now suppose the number of observations are even. If the number of observations are even, then average of the two middle numbers, the average of two middle numbers provided data is ordered. Say for example, 6 observations you have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here the third term and the fourth term average will give the middle value. That is nothing but median value. The average of two middle numbers provided the data is ordered. So it means that the average of two middle numbers in the sense, see, third term and fourth term in the 6 observations, after collecting the 6 observations, these observations has to be kept in order. Once you keep it in order, then the third term and fourth term will give the median. I mean, average of the third term and fourth term will give the median of that particular observation. So there are two things which is the situation can be possible in the calculation of median. One is the number of observations may be odd, or the number of observations may be even. So the midpoint of this, in the case of odd, the midpoint will give the median, and in the case of even observations, then it will give the average of two numbers which are two middle numbers. Okay, so here nth term or n plus 1 by, I mean n plus 1th term average. Nth term, I mean if you take 6 number of observations, n by 2th term, n plus 1 by 2, the term is going to be a n by 2 plus 1, means here n by 2 plus 1 is, the plus 1 is only it is a separate term. Okay, n by 2 is one term, plus 1 is one term. So if there are 10 observations, 10 by 2 term is 5th, and 10 by 2 plus 1, 10 by 2 is 5, 5 plus 1 is 6. So 5th term and 6th term average will be taken. If it is 20, 10th term and 11th term will be taken the average. So that is how the median is calculated in the case of odd number of observations and even number of observations. Next we'll move to the mode. So we know that the mode is nothing but it is a most number of occurrence. You can say it is a maximum frequency which you have, that is called as a mode. So if you have a set of observations, in that observations, which number is occurring most frequent times, that is called as a mode. So mode of a set of numbers is the value that occurs with the greatest frequency. Mode of a set of numbers is the value that occurs with the greatest frequency. Now mode may be non-existent, means sometimes in the set of observations mode may not be existent or have more than one value. It may have more than one value also. See, a series of numbers, if it is referred to have the unimodal in the sense which has only one mode, then it is called unimodal set of data or series of numbers. And then if it has a two modes, that is called as a bimodal. So if you have a set of observation where the frequency of one particular number is say 3 times is occurred, so 5 is occurred, say for example 3 times, 5 5 5 like that. Similarly, there one more number, say 9 may occur 3 times, 9 9 9 like that. In the set of data, two numbers having the same number of frequency, then that to be maximum, then that will be called as a having the bimodal series of numbers. Then multimodal, if it has more than two modes, then it is called as a multimodal series of numbers. When the data are grouped into frequency distribution, that is in the form of, let's say for example, class intervals and all those class intervals, and then finding the frequency distribution and finding the frequency of that particular class interval, and then you have arranged the data in the form of frequency distribution. In such cases, the midpoint of the cell, say for example 10 to 20 is the cell, the midpoint of this cell is going to be 10 plus 20 by 2, that is 15, will become the midpoint of the cell. With the highest frequency is the mode. So the midpoint of the cell with the highest frequency, it will become the mode of the particular frequency distribution data. So depending on the frequency distribution, this is the series of observations, that is just giving numbers. Whereas the numbers are grouped into a frequency distribution, then we need to find out the midpoint of the cell with the highest frequency, that will be called as mode. So these are the three average, median, and mode are called as measures of central tendency. Measures of central tendency. So similarly, we are going to find out one more analytical method which are going to use the describing the data, which are going to use the describing the data, is called as measures of dispersion. Measures of dispersion, how you are going to calculate. So there are two measures are there. In the case of measures of dispersion, the name says how the data is scattered, how the data is dispersed. So means from the actual value, how the data is fall from the mean value, or from the central value. Okay, it describes how the data is spread, or scattered on each side of the central value. If I have a central value is 10, say for example, the data if you have collected is, say for example, it is 15. So that there is a dispersion of 5 value, mean 15 minus 10, so that is going to be dispersion. So here it describes the measures of dispersion. The name says dispersion of data. It describes how the data are spread, are scattered on each side of the central value or mean value. So there are two measures of dispersion. One is called as range, the other one is called as standard deviation. So one is called as range, the other one is called as standard deviation. These are the two measures of dispersion. There are two measures of dispersion. Now we'll discuss one by one. So range, I think this is also you will be knowing. Range is nothing but it will be gives the difference between the maximum value and the minimum value in any data. If you collected the n number of observations, in n number of observation, in the n number of observation which gives the maximum value and which gives the minimum value, the difference of these two will be called as range. The difference of these two will be called as range. So for a series of numbers, it is defined as the difference between the largest and smallest values of observations. In a quality control techniques or methods, range is used very widely. Means range is a common measure of dispersion, and it is used in control charts for variable data. So this topic we are going to discuss in the next chapter. So it is used in the control charts for variable data. So how to construct a control chart for variable data? Using this range also, we are going to construct the control charts. And it provides the total spread of the data. So this range will give you how the spread of the data is there. Means what is the from minimum value to the maximum value, because it gives the minimum value up to the maximum value. This is how the spread of the data is there. That will be provided by the range. So as the number of observations increases, say for example, if it increases the number of observations, say for example 50 observations and 100 observations are there, then this range will not be gives the good measure of dispersion. So generally this range is used with the maximum of 10 observations in a particular sample. So range will be taken into consideration only the maximum of 10 observation in a particular sample, then only it will be range is used. So as the number of observation increases, the accuracy of this range will decreases. So it cannot be used for maximum number of observations if you are collected. So range is not the good measure of dispersion in this case. So how range is calculated? So as we told that in the definition, x max minus x minimum. So maximum value of the observation and the minimum value of the observations. The difference of this gives the range. So then we'll go to the standard deviation. So standard deviation, the deviation in the sense, it is nothing but what is the actual value, then what is the result you got. The difference of this is going to be a deviation. So that is what but when you talk about the standard deviation, that will be calculated using this equation. It is the numerical value. It is the numerical value in the units of the observed values. It is a numerical value in the units of the observed values. In the units of the observed values that measures the spreading tendency. That measures the spreading tendency of the data. It measures the dispersion in the data as even the range also and standard deviation. As we told that these are called measures of dispersion. So the standard deviation is also measures the dispersion of the data, and it is used when more precise measure is desired. So if you want exactly how much amount is the deviation is there, then we can go for the standard deviation than the range. So how you calculate standard deviation will be of the sample S is equal to square root of summation of x minus x bar whole square by n minus 1. So here the summation of all the observed values. See here, it is called to sum of means x. Say for example, there are 10 observations or 50 observations. X1 minus x bar whole square, then x2 minus x bar whole square. Then you need to find out the x3 minus x bar whole square. Likewise, for all the observations, you need to calculate and sum it, then divide it by n minus 1, and then square root of it. So that is what the standard deviation is going to be calculated. So square root of summation of x minus x bar whole square, x minus x bar whole square divided by n minus 1. So what is S is? S is called as sample standard deviation. S is called as sample standard deviation, and X is the each score in the distribution, means the observation. Whatever the observations which you have, that is called as a observation 1. Say for example x1 in the sense observation 1, x2 is observation 2, x3 is observation 3, likewise. Okay, then x bar, as I told you, this bar is used for mean, that is the average, nothing but average. So x bar is the sample mean. Mean is also, I mean average is also called as a mean average are both are same. So x bar is the sample mean. We know that how to calculate the x bar, which we discussed in the average measures of central distance, central tendency, that is the mean. How you are calculating number of observation divided by, I mean sum of observation divided by number of observations, that will be calculated with the x bar value. Once you calculate the x bar value, then we know that x1 minus x bar will be taken and then squared it, then sum of all the values divided by n. What is the n says here? N is the number of observation in a particular sample. So if in a sample you might be having 10 observations or 6 observations or 5 observations. So if there are 5 observations, then n will become 5. Okay. So n is the number of observations in a particular sample. So each term is described here. So standard deviation is measured by using this equation. Next term is we are discussing about the sample and sample and population. So what is a population? What is a sample? So here in a statistics as well as in any quantitative methodology, the set of data which you are going to collect and selected from a statistical population with the help of some defined procedures. So generally it is a population data. There is a statistical population which has the large data. So from that you are going to take the sample and then you are going to measure the dispersion of data or whatever it is, the distribution of the data we can say. So the collected data is the set of data collected and selected from the statistical population with the help of some defined procedures. And there are two different types of data sets. Then there are two different types of data sets, namely population and sample. So as we told that the data sets in the statistics, the data sets are two types. One is the population data and sample data. So basically when we calculate the mean, deviation, variance and standard deviation, it is necessary for us to know if we are referring to the entire population or to only sample data. So in the population is, say for example, sample population, here he has given the example. Yeah. See, if you look at this, all the people who have the ID proofs is the population. All the people who have the ID proofs is the population. This is called population data. So those are all. It may have, you may have voter ID, you may have other ID, you may have a PAN card ID, or it may have employee ID, any ID. The people who have the ID proofs is the population data. But in that population data, if I want to study the distribution of, say for example, who is having the voter ID. So among the population of the data, sample which I have taken as is here the voter ID with them is the sample. If you are going to take the group of people who only have voter ID with them is the sample. So ID proofs may be n number of ID proofs. Okay. So among those who have the voter ID will be taken as is nothing but the sample of that particular data. So here all the students in the class are population, whereas the top 10 students in the class are the sample. Means top 10 it may be the with respect to the height or with respect to the weight or with respect to the academics or with respect to anything, top 10 students if we take in the class, that will become as a sample, because the class strength is going to be maybe 100, maybe 60, maybe 70. Out of that we are going to measure only top 10. So this is what we can call as population and sample differences. Okay, so here, so basically when we calculate the mean, deviation, variance, yeah, are you calculating the mean for the population or are you calculating the mean for the sample? So that we need to know. Suppose the size of the population is denoted by n, then the sample size of the population is denoted by n minus 1. Size of the population is small, and if you represent, then the sample size will be represented as n minus 1. And what are the different types of populations we have? We have a finite population, we have infinite population, we have existent population, we have hypothetical population. So what is a finite population? The finite population is also known as countable population, in which the population can be counted. We know the number exactly. In other words, it is defined as the population of all the individuals or objects that are finite. For statistical analysis, the finite population is more advantageous than infinite population, because infinite population we don't know the exact value how much it is present. So we know that the finite population we know the population number how much it is, how much data is consist of. So for that statistical analysis it is easy to analyze in the case of finite population. Examples of finite population are employees of a company. We know that there are, say for example, 1500 employees of a particular company. So potential consumer in market. So potential consumers in a market means, say for example in telecom industry, how many customers are using this Airtel or Jio or whatever it is. So that will be known in a particular company. And infinite population, the population which is uncountable, in which the counting of units in the population is not possible. Example of this is going to be number of germs in the patient's body is uncountable. So lakhs of lakhs it will be there. So germs will be in terms of lakhs, not in terms of lakhs, in terms of crores also it will be there germs. So existent population, the existing population is defined as the population of concrete individuals. In other words, the population whose unit is available in solid form is known as existent population. Example, books, students, all these are called as existent populations. And hypothetical population, the population in which those we don't know the unit of that, we don't know the unit of available in solid form is known as a hypothetical population. A population consists of set of observations, objects, etc., all called as in common, which is called as a hypothetical population. So outcome of rolling the dice. Outcome of rolling a dice, it is a hypothetical because we don't know the exact value of it, right? So it may, you may get 1 or you may get 2 or you may get 3, 4, 5, 6. So similarly outcome of tossing a coin is also a hypothetical population. Now sample what is that? It includes one or more observations that are drawn from the population, and the measurable characteristics of a sample is a statistic. We can call it as measurable characteristics in a sample is called as statistic. So sampling is the process of selecting the sample from the population. Sampling is the process of selecting the sample from the population. So here, as we discussed from the example, some people living in India is the sample of the population. Basically there are two types of sampling. One is the probability sampling, non-probability sampling. So we'll go with the probability sampling. In that, this can be dealt with the following certain procedure, which will be ensure that every unit of the population consists of one fixed probability being included in the sample. Such method is called as random sampling. So random sampling, there are so many techniques in the probability sampling. Simple random sampling, cluster sampling, stratified sampling, disproportionate sampling, proportionate sampling, optimal allocation, stratified sampling, multi-stage sampling. So these are all just to know what is the sampling and what are the types of sampling, and then in the probability sampling, what are the different types. So we don't next, non-probability sampling. In non-probability sampling, the population units can be selected discretion of the researcher. Those samples will use the human judgments. It is not like probability. We are not using the probability here. Human judgments for selecting the units. How we are going to select based on the human judgment. Okay, so it is no theoretical basis, no theoretical basis for estimating the characteristics of the population. So some of the techniques used in this are quota sampling, judgment sampling, and purposive sampling. So now, what we discussed. What are the different examples of what is the population and samples? Now we'll move on to the normal curve. So we have seen that normal curve, normal distribution curve, we can call it as a normal curve is nothing but is a probability distribution. I mean, it describes the data distribution. It describes the data distribution and of a normal random variable. So the variable which is x, which you take, it is a graphical representation of the normal distribution. The normal curve is nothing but it is a graphical representation of normal distribution. Assume that we have a x, a continuous random variable, and with the average of mu and as well as standard deviation of sigma. Then the equation of the normal curve can be used using this equation. We can describe this normal distribution. F of x is equal to 1 by sigma root 2 pi e to the power of minus x minus mu by x minus u whole square by 2 sigma square. So here, when the mean x and the mean mu and then standard deviation is given, but in the normal distribution curve, and we are going to calculate the standard normal distribution curve. So that is nothing but with the mean 0 and as well as standard deviation 1. So that is moreover the equation of normal curve with the random variable z is as follows. Random variable z is in the sense here with the mean 0 and standard deviation 1. Okay, where the mean and standard deviation of z are 0 and 1 respectively. So here z minus z square by 2. So a normal curve which has the standard deviation 0 and 1 is called as standard normal distribution curve. We can call as standard normal distribution curve, which has the mean 0 and deviation 1. Okay, a normal curve usually contains two population parameters. One is the mean, the other one is the deviation. One is the mean, the other one is the deviation. So the area under the normal curve is always equal to 1. Is always equal to 1. The area under the normal curve is equal to the total of all the possible probabilities of the random variable, that is equal to the 1. That is equal to the 1. Next, how it can be represented. So this is a way of representing the graphical way of representing the normal distribution curve. So you might have observed in mathematics normal distribution tables and normal distribution curves and all those. You find the area of area under the normal distribution curve. So when you calculate the area under normal distribution curve, we will be having, see, from the mean to plus 1 sigma, it will be 34.13, and from mean to the minus 1 sigma, it is 34.13. If we want to find out the area between the two limits, that is plus or minus 1 sigma, then this will be added. Then these two will be added. So that will be gives the 68.26%. Similarly, the data is between the two limits which are plus or minus 2 sigma, that is plus 2 sigma and minus 2 sigma. If I want to add this data, then all this percentage, 4 percentages values are added, and I'll be getting the 95.44%. So how to calculate area under the normal distribution curve? I think you'll be knowing that is z value you need to calculate, that is x minus mu by sigma. That is called test statistic. So the x minus mu by sigma you need to find out by convert the z value. Based on the z value, look into the normal distribution tables and find out the area under the normal curve. So that's how you can calculate. So within the two limits, this is the upper limit and lower limit. That is the upper limit and lower limit. So plus or minus 3 sigma limits, plus or minus 3 sigma limit. Area under the normal distribution curve will give the 99.73%. Area under the normal distribution curve within the plus or minus 2 sigma is 95.44. Means probability is 0.96, probability is 0.99, probability is 0.68. Okay, so the probability that an observation under the normal curve lies within the one standard deviation, that is plus or minus 1 sigma, is 0.68. With two standard deviation in the sense 2 sigma means plus or minus 2 sigma. This is around 0.95, that is here 0.9544. 0.9973 is the between 3 sigma limits. Next, properties of normal curve. The values of mean, median, mode normal curves are located on the same point. Okay, in the normal curve, see, this is the mean value and this is the mode value, and the as well as median also. Mean, median and mode will be lying on the same line in the normal distribution curve. And it is a symmetric curve centered around the mean, whereas 50% observations lies on the right hand side. That is the 50% lies in the right hand side of the mean, 50% lies on the left hand side of the mean. And the third one, it is a bell shaped curve. It is a bell-shaped curve, and also unimodal. Unimodal means only one mode we have. So example of that curve is discussed with the distribution of height of students in a class, scores of students of a standard examination in class. So next is the characteristics of normal distribution curve. All normal curves are bell-shaped. All normal curves are symmetric about the mean, and the area under the curve is 1, and the height of the normal curve is maximized at x equal to mu, and it has only depends on mean and standard deviation. So this graph represents the different with mean value. Say here these are three graphs which has the same mean value with different deviation, and this is the curve which is in this green color, which has the different mean